Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.
Welcome. Hey there. Welcome to another show on America's Heroes Group. My name is Yvette Swanson. I am the National Veterans Homeless Housing Advocate and Consultant nationwide. I said national, right? And I want to thank the America's Heroes Group and its founder, Cliff Kelly, for inviting me to this show. About 11 years ago, I contacted the show and introduced myself because somebody said, Yvette, you would be good on that show. So I had one time, and I'm like, look, I can't keep doing this because I'm busy housing homeless veterans, and I don't have time to be running and chasing behind anybody. So I just let it go. And in time, God said, okay, you're ready. You're ready. So in 22 years, I've housed over 5,000 homeless veterans, and not just me. I've created teams and I've taught people, leasing agents, a lot of them, along all of this time. Because housing that many people, it takes a village. It takes a lot. But you want to know something? Whenever I say I've housed over 5,000 unhoused homeless veterans, somebody who I trained, who was on my team, who worked in the offices I managed, said, Yvette, it was more than that. And it probably was, but I don't want to sound like I'm exaggerating because, homeless veterans enter the military every day. They're released from the military every day. Some of them are discharged, not released. They're discharged homeless. Some of them are released from incarceration, homeless. Some are released from the hospital, homeless. We have homeless veterans who are living amongst us. And people say, how is that veterans are homeless and they live in our backyards? Well, yeah, they do, because simply they don't know how to access their benefits. So tonight we're going to talk about accessing that funding as a provider, as a housing provider. Now, as a I think we're having a storm. As a realtor, I knew, and I still know, where the money is to house unhoused homeless veterans. I know what agencies hold the bags to house these unhoused homeless veterans. Now, we're going to talk about how you can become one of those contracting agencies, how you can get some of that money to house these unhoused homeless veterans. Because as a realtor for 22 years, people always ask me, Derrick Green, how do you house homeless veterans? They don't have any money. So I'm going to have my guests, my esteemed guests, and new business. What are we? We're like business partners now. We're like the.
We said combined solutions between, yes.
Because you need the money in order to do your business. You need the money, right? You need the contract. So go ahead and introduce yourself, because I do have some very good questions for you to answer for our viewers.
Hello, everyone. My name is Derrick Green. A little bit about me. So the reason I'm on the show is because my area is the government contracting and procurement side of the house. Okay. When we say government contracting, what we're really saying is government acquisitions, government procurement. Potato means the same thing. Those words are used interchangeably. But so my background is I served in the executive channels and as a government contracting and procurement officer in the U.S. Department of Defense. Department of Homeland Security under FEMA, Department of Veterans Affairs, VA, for 7 years in VA contracting. And then I left to learn the municipality side and did the same thing for the city of Houston Strategic Procurement Division as a procurement officer. So that being said, what that literally means is that I was the responsible executive for the team of professionals who create the evaluation criteria by which contracts are awarded. We choose which companies get those contracts, which essentially is funding. It's money.
Yeah,
It's
money.
it's money to do your thing in whichever sector of contracting you're in. And in this case, we're talking real estate. We're talking housing veterans and similar populations. Of course, veterans, they have to be troops first, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you said that. People have always asked me and wondered, how do I house homeless veterans? And the first thing they say is they don't have any money. They don't, what? They want to live here for free. So earlier we were talking about some areas in New Orleans. But let me ask you this first, because we'll get to that. My first question for you is, how can investors of real estate developers position their properties to attract government leasing contracts? And I'm glad hold on one second, one moment, because we didn't have this conversation yet, but I'm glad this question came up because I am in 2 national real estate investing companies. And one of them, it's both of them were actually 3. They're educational companies, and this is something we never talk about. So this will be introduced. Right. So I want you to answer that. How can investors of real estate or real estate developers position their properties to attract government contracts?
Well, first and foremost, one of the biggest aspects is this. So if we're talking from a standpoint of investors, the beautiful thing is, as an investor, you are literally the most flexible host. We always say the investor is the top of the food chain because you're not restricted to one area. Here's why that's good. Because every agency has their own unique criteria, right? So, for example, as an investor, the best way you'd want to go about this is study the agency first and foremost. And when I say study, this doesn't mean read 20 paragraphs to develop a dissertation. No, it simply means find out what that agency is. For example, if it's the VA, what does that mean? They serve veterans, right? You know that they serve veterans. So think about the simple things. Think about your family members who are veterans, right? What do they usually need? What are the things they typically need to be comfortable as a veteran? Housing, supportive services, and the things that cater to whatever recourse they have as a result of being in service. Bam, that's your answer. So you want, and let me explain why. You want to acquire your property and set that property up to where it caters to the things that veterans typically need. How do you know what veterans need? How do you know what the VA wants? Think about all your cousins, your parents who served in the military. What does it typically take to accommodate them? And guess what? You even have a cheat sheet. It's on va.gov.
So
it's on va.gov.
Yeah, I hear some type of glitching.
Oh, let's see something. Is it like a computery?
No, it's just glitching, like I don't like a tapping sound.
Give me 1 second. Let me fix that. I think I know what it is.
Okay. So he's having a little bit of technical. I'm looking around like, where is that sound coming from? But I'm so glad he's here because he's talking about as an investor, as a developer, as a someone who buys real estate and want to do some type of veterans housing, you're going to need to have money to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
so you answered question number 9, and for those who are just joining, please feel free to go back and listen to Derrick Green's response to this question. How can investors or real estate developers position their properties to attract government leasing contracts? Let me tell you something. I have been doing this for years. For years. I've been a consultant with, I've had over 2,000 investors and property owners, property management companies. I've got beautiful letters written from all of these owners of multi-unit properties. And I could tell you all the properties that I would mention and tell these investors what to buy in order to position themselves to receive not a contract that they've had to go on sam.gov and get, but how to receive the money from the contractors who have the funding.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. So, and let's go on to our next question. How does the federal government decide which properties or businesses get awarded leasing contracts?
Now, the good thing about, I'm glad you asked that question because that goes back to the evaluation criteria and competitive range. So let's talk evaluation criteria and how that connects to the question, right? So they're gonna, first and foremost, the good thing is they already have their cheat sheets out there. So for example, we know that everything the government does typically, in not all cases, but a lot of times moves through sam.gov, right? So sam.gov typically will provide you with solicitations. Now, some of those solicitations may not even be available. However, even though they're expired, they are still there to give you the line items. And those line items, it's going to be your basic things in terms of how the facilities should look, in terms of, the things that you think about the things, if you know someone who's been in the military, right?
Yeah.
Think about barracks. If you're talking about co-living, think about barracks. If you're talking about, well, if you're talking about if you're talking about independent living, then you want to think about government leased housing,
Mhm.
which could come in the form of apartment living or individual homes in one subdivision. Here's why I say that. The VA typically wants to mirror their independent living situations to mirror that of active duty troops as much as possible.
Mhm.
So it's literally that simple. So you go to sam.gov, you marry that together with what's on the agency's website, and it's gonna let you know. It's gonna let you know. But last but not least, it ties right back into the initial question that you asked. It's about understanding the unique needs of that agency. For example, so we talked about VA, right? Now let's talk about Department of Defense real quick. If we can
Yeah.
segue there just for a second, right? So when
Yeah.
soldiers move, right? When soldiers move, when Marines move, when airmen move, when sailors move, right? And the Space Force people, all right? For if you're into that, right? Like
Mhm.
anyway, I don't really know what they do yet. I'm still learning, but I'm from the old five branch military. So, but anyway,
Uh,
but
uh,
so so anyway, right? That's me being goofy. But
uh,
Department of Defense, remember, they have what's called government lease housing, right? So you have troops who typically they want the privileges of living on base, but
mhm.
they don't want that base life. But at the same time, they also don't want to have to pay their own bills. So they want the freedom of living off base, But they also want a lot of the privileges that comes with living in on-base housing. And especially if you're talking about the troops who move to places like Houston, for example, they get sent somewhere like Houston, where I'm at, which has no real military bases, right? So government lease housing is basically a situation where the government will come, the government will come and say, okay, you know what? We want to go ahead and put out a procurement for an entire building or an entire subdivision. Now, understanding what they want, once again, you go back to that agency. You think about, what does that agency serve? You know, think about the conveniences that you'd want as an active duty person, right? Who could potentially have to be deployed sometimes. You want everything to be convenient. You almost want it cookie cutter. That's your
Yep.
clue. So guess what? Veterans typically want the same thing, but the government's going to give it to them probably at a probably at a much slightly lower level. That's a little more cost efficient, because at this point they're not on active duty anymore, and we want them to be able to transition back into living on their own. Therefore, we're going to give them some of those cookie cutter military convenience things, but at a little lesser level. So that's the clue right there. So the answer to that would be, do your research, right? And then the next step will be, find out who those acquisition officers are.
Okay, hold on, because we only have a certain amount of time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right?
Yeah, they can reach out to us for those other details.
Exactly. So I think I typed in, it didn't go through.
And we have a question too. We have a question, Yvette.
Yeah, I see it. So is there a certain certificate that I must have in order to get awarded contracts? So I was alluding to that question that I put in the comments that didn't go through. That's a loaded question that requires an appointment. So email me, and then I'll put you in touch with Derrick, because it involves both of us. It involves both of us. It involves his specialty in contracts and procurement, and it involves my specialty in veterans housing. So it depends on, what do you want to do? What type of housing? And then that's with me. But with Derrick, you have to get these, you have to get in the SAMS.gov, and all of this is a process. So that's not a yes or no or an easy question to answer, because it's a lot. It's a lot of work.
Yeah,
and typically, typically people hire consultants to do that upfront work. And that's what we do.
It's situational. It's definitely situational.
Yes, that's a good word. So let's go to, it's raining here. Question number 10. And this is going right into this question. What's one thing you wish every business owner knew before trying to win a government contract?
The importance, what I wish they knew is the importance of having a project manager on their team who has already operated in the space of procurement and contracting, or I'm gonna say, and this the SSVF space, supportive services for veterans and families. But when I say that, let me clarify that statement. That doesn't mean the agencies that doesn't mean the SSVF companies. I'm talking about the people who serve as the bridge to help make that happen. The person between the veteran, the VA, and the SSVF agencies. Basically, pretty much Yvette Jones Swanson.
Right.
You want that person on your team.
Yes. That's why I'm over here smiling, because agencies don't know. And agencies need an Yvette Jones Swanson on their team. On who the agencies that receive the SSVF funding, I know who they all are here in Illinois. That's how I'm able to house all of these veterans, because I know where the bag is. I know they'll call me and say that I've got veterans, 5 of them who need housing. Send them my way. They're bringing money, and I know where the investors are who have these units available and who said yes to any of my clients that I'm bringing their way, because I'm bringing them the bag. I'm bringing them the money from the SSVF organizations that have the contracts that Derrick helps you get as a business owner. And now you need a veteran to use that money on, because you have to use it or you're going to lose it. And don't misappropriate the money, because I've seen several agencies get shut down because they've misappropriated the money in a nice word. Go ahead. That's all I had to say.
That's right.
But
That is absolutely right.
one other thing you mentioned is the VA likes to mirror for us as veterans communities that we're accustomed to living in on base. So what I've been doing for the past 10 years, I've been designing veteran villages. I've set my veteran village plans in front of mayors and state representatives who all love the idea, who all want to see it come to fruition. So we're bringing back Pembroke Hopkins Park, and that's an original underground slave hideaway for our ancestors who were running away, and they homesteaded that area, and it was beautiful farmland all back in the day. They were Pembroke Hopkins Park. They were growers of hemp. So they were one of the largest hemp producers in World War II. So now we're looking to build 60 single family homes for 55 and over veteran community that mirrors where we used to be on base. We didn't have to go anywhere.
And I'm gonna tell you, just by saying, anybody who tuned in and heard that, I just thought about something. We just gave somebody the keys that everybody who's looking to do what they're doing don't have. Because see, what I've done my research. Most of the people who have these veteran homes, who say they want to house veterans, they don't even understand to think like that. And guess what? The VA is not going to tell you. SSVF company's not going to tell you. They're just going to send people where, if there's an available space. But that's the key. That's the difference. And I hope everybody's hearing what I'm saying. I'm gonna tell y'all as much as I can tell you without you getting a consultation. But that's the key. There's a difference between people who have apartments and spaces that get veterans sent there individually through SSVF versus you being able to contract a whole building to the government. That's the difference.
Right, that's the difference.
A lot of people wonder why they can't do that. The reason they can't do that is because the federal agency does not want to have to tell you that you have to think on that level of providing them with something that mirrors a military style framework. They don't want to have to tell you that. But because that means that it wasn't already in, that means you haven't done a research to even care enough about how the veterans are living. You just want the money.
Exactly.
But if you show up already thinking like that, let's give them something cookie cutter that gives them that comfort of active duty. That signals the agency they actually have the veteran in mind.
Yes.
So we're not just going to put them on that list to send veterans individually. Let's just go ahead and consider contracting that whole building. We give them an overall blanket lease, and we rotate the veterans for them.
Exactly.
Or the soldiers for them for government lease housing.
Exactly.
That's the difference. But I think I'm giving too much right now.
You know what? You can give all you can, because who can do that without you? Who can't? Because there's steps and layers to get there. So please, you can say it all day long, each step and layer. But Kate, let me tell you, it would take a genius to do all of those individual layers.
And that's why we have National Veteran Homeless Housing Coordinators. National Veterans Homeless Housing Coordinators and contractors. She's both, right? National Veteran Homeless Housing Contractor and Coordinator. And that's why we have CPPOs. For those of you who don't know, CPPO means Certified Public Procurement Officer. That
Yes.
means that I was on the side, one of the decision makers in terms of who gets awarded contracts
Yes.
before I decided to build my own company that's on the receiving end of that same mechanism. So that's why you need an Yvette Jones Swanson. That's why you need a Derrick Green,
Yes.
because we're gonna teach you how to understand, not just to go after the money, but to have the right heart. Because you can go after the money and get it, but if you want to get it to the level to where you get one of those 15, 20-year leases,
Yeah.
ongoing building leases with the federal government.
Yeah. Then you're going to need a Derrick Green who knows how to submit and guide you through what you need to do in order to get these contracts. And before it's too late, let me just tell you, we were talking about New Orleans, and because that's where he assisted three contractors in winning $1 million contracts. So we're talking about the contractors here in New Orleans. One of them is Hope Center Incorporated. They received $3,436,180. Then he said, "Oh, Yvette, I know Start Corporation." Well,
Mhm.
Start, you can't see it, but Start Corporation is right here, New Orleans,
Mhm.
Jefferson Parish, Louisiana, and some other counties in there, whatever they're called.
And,
And
and
they
I
were
didn't tell I didn't tell Yvette how I know Star Corporation. But go ahead.
okay. We're gonna have to
I,
resume this.
I
They
told you that
re-
I know, but I didn't tell you how I know them.
well, let me just tell them how much they received on their government contract for veterans housing. All of these contractors that received $3.2 billion for September through October of 2025, Start Corporation received $1,807,402.
Hmm.
And we have a couple minutes before we have to sign off here. But Derrick, how do you know Start Corporation? I want to know too.
Because when I had to transition back to New Orleans from DC, I was
Yes.
homeless.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I know. And
Mm.
and guess what?
What?
You know why the government likes them? Because they're not hard to find.
Oh.
When I went, I'll never forget it. I was couch surfing because couch surfers are part of the homeless population.
Well, yeah.
You
They don't
know,
have a lease. We don't have a lease.
yep. I was couch surfing, and so I got up about 5 o'clock every morning, just going to downtown New Orleans with I'm talking broke, probably
Yeah.
$5 to my name, with a suit and a tie and some resumes in my hand,
Yeah.
and stopping at every agency. Hey, do y'all know what the veteran support agencies are? I'm seeing it on my phone, but I'm not exactly understanding what suite is in. They
Yeah.
threw that name out there so fast. They said, "Oh, you didn't know? You ever heard of Start Corp?" They call them Start Corp.
Yeah.
They said, "Yeah, everybody knows Start Corp." So what that lets me know, these people love veterans so much that they're getting out there making themselves known. They're connecting with pastors. They're
Yeah.
connecting with city leaders, community leaders. And I'm
Yes.
giving y'all more free game right there. So I'm gonna shut up.
Yes, yes. So I've got from A to Z, A to W, all the agencies, all the SSVF organizations that received the $3.2 billion nationwide. And I have access to all of those. We both do. So if
Hmm.
there's anybody here listening, you want to open any type of veterans housing in any city, any state, we can help navigate that journey for you. That's what we do. You need the money, you need Derrick Green. You need to know where to get these veterans from who are coming with the bag. You need to know an Yvette Jones. It's
Yep.
this way. We'll do it that way.
Oh, that's what's doing.
That's what I was doing.
My
Am
my
I
thing got
going
me
your
doing it like
way?
that.
Right. Am
Well,
I
yeah,
am I
well,
pointing to you? Or do I gotta
no,
go that
you got to
way?
do like that,
Yeah, I
like
got
that.
yeah, you need a Derrick Green.
Yep.
Thank
So
y'all
you
so
on
much
so
for
so
watching.
you're on my other left. Okay. All
Yes,
Welcome
right.
to
on the other left, right.
AHG Connects,
So
where
we look,
voices,
catch us
information,
again and
and
replay this video
resources
because you're going to
are
need it.
empowered intentionally.
Thank you for being here. That